Welcome to the very first video of the Godot training series on GDQuest. We are going to take a look at what the engine is, what are the requirements for this series if you want to follow it, and how you can get the engine. Godot is a multi-platform game engine with a visual editor. It includes animation tools, a node-based shader programming interface, a powerful scene instancing system, and it has dedicated 2D and 3D rendering engines. But that is not all. It also offers a powerful scripting and debugging interface with the ability to change scripts while the game is running and to do remote debugging as well. Cherry on the cake, it will export your games both to phones and desktop, and even HTML5, although I haven't had the opportunity to try that yet. This is going to be a short tutorial series, so we won't have time to cover everything. We'll focus on 2D and create a simple platforming game system or prototype to learn the fundamental concepts that will help you get up and running with Godot. There is one big prerequisite for the course though. It's not for absolute beginners. If you have no experience at all with game creation, you'd better start with the step-by-step tutorials that you can find in the official documentation. I'll leave the link in the description below. And aside from that, you will need some programming notions at least. Because Godot uses its own scripting language, GDScript, which we are going to take a quick look at, but we won't dive too deep into the basics of programming. The language itself, GDScript, is inspired by Python, and Python is one of the most used programming languages out there, especially in the scientific field. But that's not all, because it's also very popular in graphic applications. You can already make plugins for Blender, GIMP, I believe, and it's coming to Krita as well. So you can hit two birds with one stone. If you get some experience with Python, GDScript will really feel like home. And if you don't know anything about Python right now, Codecademy has a free interactive course that will run you through the basics and even cover some more advanced concepts that will be very useful to get you started. Once again, you will find the link in the video description. To get Godot, just head to the official website godotengine.org, and then you will find a big download button that will take you to the download page, where you just have to get the version that corresponds to your operating system. In case you're wondering whether you should download the 32 or 64-bit version, it's most likely the latter. If you have more than 4 GB of RAM, download the 64-bit version. If your computer has less than, let's say, 5 years, you can most likely run the 64-bit version on your computer. And if you download it and it doesn't work, well, just go back and download the 32-bit version. On Windows, Godot comes as an archive, so you will have to manually unzip the file to get the executable. It's not an installer, you just unzip it wherever you want. You can manually create a shortcut for it by right-clicking on the file and going to Send to Desktop. And this will create a shortcut pointing to your executable file. I personally chose to manually put Godot in the C drive, Program Files, and to create a new folder named Godot. So when you first open Godot, this is how your interface should look, and this is the project manager. In the middle, it gives you a list of all of the projects that you have either created or imported in the program. And to do so, you have to use the buttons on the right. So you can see the import button right there. You have a scan button to scan the existing project in the known folders by Godot. And then you can click on New Project to create a new project. So there, you can directly enter the project path and the project name. Although there's a browse button which will open a file browser, I recommend just using your built-in system browser. Like I'm using a program called Directory Opus here, and I'll copy the path to the folder I want to use, Control-C, and just paste it in my project path. And then I can choose the name. By default, it's going to use the folder name, but you can use whatever you'd like. Click on the Create button, and you can see that Godot Quest has been added to our project list. You then only have to double-click on it or to select the Edit button to open your newly created project. it has opened on my secondary screen, but this is how your interface should look now. Alright, but we're not going to use that one just yet. I'm going to give you a little demo with an open project that we have right there. Here we have our interface, and the first thing I want to talk about is the viewport right in the middle. This is where you will create your game and add assets, edit your levels, place your characters, everything like that. So here I have the 2D viewport open, but if you look at this bar at the top of the screen, you have options for 2D, 3D, script, and asset lib. If you click on 3D, you will get to the 3D viewport where you can create your games in 3 dimensions. But we're going to use the 2D one for the purpose of this series. The script and asset lib buttons, as the name suggests, bring you to the programming tab, and the asset lib is an asset store just like you would find on Unity, for example. If you look on the left, you have the file system by default. And this allows you to browse your folders and to find all of the resources that you will use in your levels or in any scene that you will create in Godot. At the top, you have a list of folders, a folder tree. Basically, it starts with the res:// folder, which is your root directory. This is the folder in which you created your Godot project. Then if you go down, I've created a list of folders. So this is the way I organize my projects. I have source, where I have my Krita files and other documents that I won't be using directly in the game. You have add-ons that's created automatically by Godot when you import add-ons that you downloaded online. And then I have the interface for my game, which manages the score that you can see in the middle of the screen. I have the level part, which is where I will build my levels. And then you have the player folder, which is where every script that belongs to the player movement and the character sprites are saved. So the second thing that you can see is that whenever I select a given folder, I see all of its content in the bottom part of this tab. And this allows me to click on my resources. I can, for example, take any scene and add it to the scene tree like that, and drag and drop elements that I've already created in Godot. So this is how you will add elements that you have pre-built to the scenes. On the right side of the screen, you have the scene tree, and this is where the content of your scene gets displayed. This is where also you will load objects. For example, I can take a scene that I have created from the resource management tab, and I'm going to drag and drop it into my level. I can drop it on any element to add it as a child of that element. And for example, I've added the score again in that case. So don't worry if I don't go in great details on everything, because we're just having a quick tour of the UI. Now, if you look below the scene tree, you will see the inspector. And maybe on your computer, you don't see anything in there. This is because you have an empty scene right now and you need to add an object for the inspector to display its properties. So you are going to click on that little plus button in the scene tab, or you can press the Ctrl-A keyboard shortcut. And there, I invite you to select Node 2D and click on Create. Alright, so you should have a Node 2D, an element with that ring icon in your scene tree. And when you click on it, the inspector will update and show you a list of properties. So you can click and expand the inspector by clicking right in the middle of the scene and inspector tabs and expanding it. And then you will see a long list of properties. And if I select my player, for example, here, you can see that it's even longer. But you don't have to be afraid about that. I just want to show you something real quick. You can see that there are category names inside of the inspector. So if I click on a Node 2D element, which is the most basic 2D element that you can find in Godot, you will see the Node 2D category, Canvas item category, Node category. This is a hierarchy of properties. Basically, everything in Godot is a node, everything that you add to the scene at least. If I click on my player again, and I go to the bottom, what do we find from the bottom to the top? The node category, canvas item category, and node 2D. And you will find that on every single object that's a child of Node 2D. So Node 2D allows you to place, rotate, scale your object and set its depth, to set its rendering order. And Canvas item will control the opacity and the visibility of your object mainly. And then in the Node tab, this is where you can drag and drop a script from your resources to give this object a behavior controlled by code. So to recap quickly, in the Scene tab, you can find all of the elements that you have in your level or in your current scene. And when you select them, you can change their properties in the Inspector tab. We'll skip on the Node tab right now because it's mostly linked to scripting. And talking about scripting or programming, this is the next thing I want to show you. So we are going to the top of the interface and we'll click on the Script button, which will take us to the scripting or programming viewport. This is where you will write code to control your characters, your interface, and everything that happens in your game. I have a script open here. It's written in GDQuest, the scripting language that belongs to Godot itself. So this is a language that looks a lot like Python, if you already know it. And we will look at the syntax in a later video. But what I want to show you is just the fact that Godot has an excellent built-in help tool. So you can click on classes first and foremost, and you can see all of the objects that you have. And this is a programming reference. So you can click on any element that you want to check, that you are using for programming purposes. And for example, if I go to Node Canvas item Node 2D, or I can simply search for Node 2D in the search bar, it will get automatically highlighted. I press enter to open it. I get a page with a list of the methods and variables that this object has and that I have at my disposal. And you can see which classes it inherits from, so which other properties it has. And you can also see everything that inherits Node 2D. So you have a lot of classes in that case. So if you're used to working with programming references, it's going to be very useful to you. And then you have another button, Search Help, with which you can search for everything in the help itself. So you can search for specific methods. For example, if I start to type set underscore, I will get a list of all of the methods that start with set and underscore. So I can see that the animated sprite has it, also the accept dialog, the animation object, and so on and so forth. This is just to tell you that you can look for variables or anything that you will find somewhere in the program, but you don't know what this does. You can search for it directly from within Godot. It's very fast. You can get the information that you need at any time. We can't just know all of the API, all of the functions that a game engine has by heart. And the thing is, we always have to look at the reference. Every developer, every professional needs to do that all the time. There are some functions, obviously, that we use so often that we know them by heart. But quite often, when you are solving a problem for your game, you are trying to achieve a certain look or effect, you have to search through the reference and solve the problem in your own way with all of the tools that you have at hand. So the good thing about Godot is that if at any point in one of my tutorials I just skim through something, or you skipped a video tutorial and I'm talking about something that I have covered before but you don't know and you need it to understand the tutorial, just click on Search Help, you search for the function, and then it will tell you exactly what it does. So this tutorial has been quite long already, but I just want to give you a few more pointers. If you go to the official website, godotengine.org, and you head to the community tab, you will find a list of places where you can get help, answers for your questions, showcase your work, but also engage with the community and give help to others. You have a Discord server in particular on which I'm active, and you will also know that there is a dedicated GDQuest server on Discord where you can come and give me feedback about the tutorials, ask questions, tell me if you didn't understand something. but you can also engage with the other members of the community, the creator artists, and everyone. Okay, so that's it for this one, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Thank you kindly for watching.